I think it's also just recognizing that all of us have that opportunity to live in the moment. And I think that's important as we age and we talk about aging. A lot of times people don't want to talk about aging. And so I believe it's truly important for each of us to take that opportunity to live in the moment, to ensure that we're doing the best for ourselves and others and creating that community.
Hi, I'm Jeff Holden. Welcome to the Nonprofit Podcast Network. Our purpose and passion is to highlight a nonprofit organization in each weekly episode, giving that organization an opportunity to tell their story in their words to better inform and educate the respective communities they serve, as well as provide one more tool for them to share their message to constituents and donors. Our goal is to help build stronger communities through shared voices and to both encourage and support the growth of local nonprofit organizations through podcasting. Thanks to our founding partners for their foresight in helping us transform the way conversations start. CapTrust, fiduciary advice for endowments and foundations, and Western Health Advantage, a full-service healthcare plan for individuals, employer groups, and families. As our population ages, our oldest boomers are now 79 years old. Society faces mounting concerns around healthcare, financial security, and caregiving. The healthcare system is strained by rising demand for chronic care. We're experiencing a shortage of providers and ballooning Medicare costs. Many seniors lack sufficient retirement savings and long-term care planning, making them vulnerable to financial stress and elder abuse, further exacerbating an already difficult situation. Aging in place is preferred, but few homes are properly equipped. Social isolation, mental health challenges, and limited support systems further complicate aging. Inadequate end-of-life planning leaves families to navigate difficult decisions without guidance. While we can't solve the problems that present themselves, we do have solutions that have been in place. They can't be expected to be the panacea to our aging societal issues, but they're a start. The more familiar they are, the more experienced they are, the more opportunities they can represent, the better. My guest, Sheri Peifer, is an expert in this space as she is president and CEO of one of the region's oldest and most familiar names in senior care and housing. Serving our region for over 55 years, Eskaton has become synonymous with support for an aging population. Sheri Peifer, welcome to the Nonprofit Podcast Network.
Thank you so much for having me today. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Oh boy, is it going to be an interesting one because of just the demography of the universe we live in. And let me start with that because we've got some very sobering numbers that they astound me when we think about it. Eskaton had the foresight to open 55 years or so ago. Little did you know what it would look like today in the fact that over 10,000 people turn 65 every day. And the trend has been going on since 2011 and will be expected to continue through 2030. Last year, we saw the greatest surge of Americans turning 65 years old, and more than 11,200 Americans will turn 65 every day from 2024 last year through 2027. 11,000. The number of older adults are expected to double over the next several decades, and by 2050, I'll point to myself, will represent more than 20% of the population. That's an amazing, astounding fact.
Yes, it is a dramatic shift. And I think the other element to that is that we are living longer. And so for Eskaton, we mostly serve people in their 80s, 90s, and 100s. And so when you look at that demographic shift, truly, those over the age of 85 are growing and burgeoning because the boomer population is turning 80 this year.
And we're living longer.
Yes.
We are living well because of medical advances, because of good health, and just the general interest. I mean, the boomers don't ever want to give it up. They wanted everything when they had it. And we are still here. You know, I sometimes I'm excited to say I'm a boomer, and then sometimes like, well, yeah, I'm a boomer.
And the expectations are changing.
Yes.
Of what individuals would like to see as they age. And there are many more options and choices available, which I think is exciting.
We were talking just a few minutes before we started about our parents. My dad was 89 when he passed about 5 years ago. He had no interest in going into any sort of a facility. But today, the facilities are very acceptable, and they're almost of interest because they give community.
I love that you just said that word, community. And that is actually, via research, shown to improve longevity, is when we are in a sense of community, social connections, good nutrition opportunities. Being able to live in community really allows people to flourish. It keeps us cognitively, physically able and connected. So that adds life to our years.
The Blue Zone
Yes.
books and serial that was on television, the one thing you look and you say, they drink. In Italy, they drink. That's good. I drink. Oh, no, over there in Greece, they climb a mountain every day. It's 4,200 steps just to get to see their friends.
Mm-hmm.
And over in Japan, they just eat rice, so it's a diet. But the common thread in all of them is community.
You nailed it.
Yeah.
I believe that is something our nation needs to pay attention to. The way our communities are designed in terms of cities and suburbs, are they age-friendly?
Mm-hmm.
Do we have the opportunities for people to connect easily? Because we do rely on transportation.
Right.
And so in those villages in other parts of the world, it is more natural to have the interconnectedness that kind of supports that sense of connection or community.
That's so true when you think about it. Those are all walking areas.
Yes.
In Europe, we walk all over the place when we visit. They walk every day for their living.
That's right.
Yes.
Gardening. I mean, It's just the natural movement. It doesn't have to be, go run that marathon when you're
and yoga class.
Exactly.
It's
natural movement.
Yeah.
And I think the Blue Zones really elevated understanding around healthy eating, engagement. I like that you brought up the drinking of wine, but really it's in social community settings.
Yes.
It's not just off by yourself in your own home. And so that's something new for this nation that we need to contend with, because Eskaton, even though we have residential communities, which are campus settings, we also believe that people want more choice to age well at home. And so how are we creating hubs for our campuses open to those living in their own neighborhoods, their homes of decades? And how do we connect people to that hub of support, connection, community, wonderful food, et cetera?
Which they don't have to cook.
Right.
Eskaton was born and raised on many acquisitions of healthcare facilities over time. And the expertise you got as a result of that makes the specialties you have unique. Tell us a little bit about how that's come to be and what it looks like today.
Yes, of course. So our origins were really in that sense of care, with basically starting as hospitals.
Yeah.
And in the 80s, we morphed into the residential living and also skilled nursing. And now when we look at 2025 and beyond, we're looking at more residential options. And so having the core or the foundation being in care and quality is critical, because that's who we are in our DNA. And then we also recognize that service, customer service, exceeding expectations on the life enrichment, lifelong learning side, that all of those things really are about supporting people.
What do the facilities look like? Are they all similar in the provision of services that they provide?
So when you ask the question around what does Eskaton's communities look like,
yes,
I think the beauty of Eskaton is we are really different. We are not a cookie cutter organization. Many times you'll see other options out there that are, you can say, oh, that's a certain type of community and they have 15 of those or 20 of those. Eskaton, our approach has always been to understand what the market wants in a community. For example, In Placerville, we have beautiful village community up there with patio homes that are for sale. They're fee titled, so there are people who come in and purchase their own home, and it's around a center of cottages for independent living, assisted living, and memory care. I would say for the majority of what Eskaton provides, it's independent living options, assisted living, and memory care. And on 3 of our different campuses, we also offer rehabilitation and skilled nursing.
So in those facilities where you have the ability to purchase a unit, do you also have in every one of those the ability to grow into staying on campus? So maybe you can't any longer maintain an independent lifestyle in that particular unit that you own. Now you need some assisted care and or memory care as it progresses.
Yes. So Eskaton has different models available for different interests of people. For example, we have opportunities for people to rent with services included in that monthly rent.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have options where people can buy a membership. That's typically called here in California a life plan community or a continuing care retirement community.
Okay.
And so we have several of those options where you purchase a membership in independent living. And then as your needs change, you can have some personal support in your apartment or cottage, or we also have assisted living, memory care, rehab, and skilled. So those, especially for partners where one partner may need a higher level of service, then it's really nice to be on a campus that has those supportive options and you're able to access those and be close to your loved one as well.
Oh, so truly, yeah, you may have somebody in a family situation where husband or wife needs the additional care.
Exactly.
They get to stay on campus. It's not like you have to go to a hospital or anything else. Okay, that's wonderful. You mentioned Placerville. What is the geography you cover? How many locations do you have?
So Eskaton is Northern California based currently. And so we reach over from Placerville, Grass Valley. We have affordable senior housing, which is an apartment style option for people on very limited incomes. So we have 13 campuses across Northern California for those on very limited incomes. And then we have 11 residential living campuses, ranging from over in Burlingame, south of San Francisco, to all the way, of course, Greater Sacramento is our density.
Right.
But we have several in the Bay Area. And so really Northern California based is our sweet spot.
Oh, what a nice platform. Not to mention for the companies that come into California via acquisition, they don't understand the nuance of California.
Well, California is very special.
Yes, that we know in so many ways.
Some people are like, I will never operate in California. And others are like, oh, my goodness, I'm glad I know all the nuances of California because it is different and unique.
Right. Well, and you're a large organization. As much as it's challenging for you with all the issues you have to do because you have healthcare and everything else on top of that, even as a small business, just those endemic challenges of operating in the state. So for people who tried to come in and think, oh, we're going to do great in California, maybe not so. It's really important to find somebody who understands California because you're not going to have to deal with those hurdles of error in education while they try to learn and figure it out.
That's right. And I think very important when we think about our employees, we have about 1,700 employees at Eskaton.
One of my questions. Thank you.
And we care deeply about these individuals who are truly called to what we do. It's not easy work all the time.
Totally
and
agree
so
with that.
We take care of our employees through a self-insured health plan. We have a corporate wellness program. And we think about ways to enhance their lives because ultimately your care team is the closest person or people to our customer, the older adult.
True, especially if you have no children.
That's right.
No heirs. That's it. The care team is their family.
We often hear that from our team members is that they are an extension of the care network, if you will, the family.
Let's take a quick break from our conversation with Sheri Peifer of Eskaton to hear from the people who make this program possible.
Hello, this is Scott Thomas with Cap Trust in our Sacramento office. I specialize in working with local nonprofits and associations. Annually, we survey private and public nonprofit organizations across the country to better understand challenges they see in today's environment. In our more recent survey, we heard concerns about proper board governance, mission-aligned investment, and how to implement alternative investments. If you would like a copy of the survey or to discuss your organization, look me up, Scott Thomas at captrust.com.
I'm thrilled to have Western Health Advantage partnering with us as they do so much to support so many nonprofit agencies in our community. As a truly local health plan, you'll find individual and family options, employer options, plans for CalPERS and Medicare Advantage. From medical services to pharmacy, health and wellness support, as well as behavioral health care, Western Health Advantage has a plan that fits what you need. As an employer, for profit or nonprofit business, individual or family, you can find more at westernhealth.com. Let's talk a little bit about funding, because I think people will have a perception that, especially hearing, well, they came from the hospital system and they have these facilities. What? They're a nonprofit? And you are a nonprofit. And I think most people don't realize that many of our hospital systems are also nonprofits.
That's right.
Hence the opportunity to speak on the program. But it's important for people to understand how you're funded. So how does the organization maintain itself?
Yes. So Eskaton, as a community-based nonprofit organization, basically means that we are expected by our volunteer board of directors to operate sustainable business. And so we are guided and held accountable to good business practices within the organization and to operate successful businesses. With that, the differentiator is how we utilize our profits. Mm-hmm. So the profit margin that Eskaton makes, which any business, nonprofit or for-profit, should have a reasonable profit margin, those profits are not given to investors or other syndicates. They are invested back into the communities. They're invested back into the organization. Oftentimes we learn that we've done some comparisons. We have some higher staffing ratios than other entities that are not nonprofit. Mm-hmm. And then we also have the opportunity to have some of those funds go to support individuals who can't afford services. Mm-hmm. So we do a lot of community-based services. We have a partnership with Institute on Aging where it's called the Friendship Line. And so we invest in that. And we also call people. So we work together to call people at home who are isolated. And so there's a lot
What a nice service.
So there's a lot of other services that we invest in that help the broader community, hence community-based nonprofit.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned 1,700 employees. What is the overall budget that you work with?
Yeah, so Eskaton, as you mentioned earlier, is kind of a mid-level organization. Our revenues are typically around the 150 million mark. Mm-hmm. We also manage communities as well. So that basically means that we have a hub of support that we extend to other campuses that perhaps have their own board of directors or their own ownership entity. And then we extend management services to operate their communities.
Fee for service.
Yes. So it's a management fee. So, but the majority of people who access Eskaton services, it's private pay market rate.
Okay.
When we utilize third-party payers, for example, are in Medicare or Medicaid, when people are transitioning out of the hospital, as you mentioned, and need some rehabilitation, they need skilled nursing services, that's when we access the third-party payment. And it truly, Eskaton at this point is probably 75% private pay. On our affordable housing side, that's very interesting because those who are extremely low income or low income, it's based on your average median income of the county.
Well, and that's really important that you bring that up because I don't know if I realized that you have an affordable housing element as well.
Yes.
And that's going to get you into some grant-based opportunities. Okay, go ahead.
So we have 13 communities that are affordable senior housing.
Oh, that's great to hear.
Yes. And again, as part of our mission, we work very closely with counties because ultimately we provide property management, social service support in these, I call them kind of apartment communities because they don't have meal service because they're very slender in terms of the the employees that are able to work there. So they have like 4 or 5 employees, for example, for 100 residents.
Right.
So the social service component that we do is very critical. So we're working with community-based organizations, bringing services into the apartments, having opportunities for life enrichment programs, but that's all led through the leadership at the property.
That's just a perfect segue to the next question. It's the collaborative work you do with other organizations. Who are some of the organizations that you see more often than not in relationship to the service you provide?
Well, Eskaton, I think because we have such deep roots here in Northern California, we have some amazing partnerships in place and continuing to grow, frankly. So some of our excellent partners who we adore are Pride Industries, for examples.
Absolutely.
So Pride Industries, we work closely with them to partner on bringing individuals into our culinary programs, our housekeeping programs. And then ultimately, we have an opportunity to hire individuals with different abilities on our campuses. And then we also have a partnership with Alzheimer's Association. So we work closely with them. And we also provide support groups for individuals with cognitive change and their caregivers. And then we have Del Oro, if you're familiar with them,
No.
the caregiver. It's a caregiver resource center. And so we have recently launched something called Memory Care Cafes. On Memory Care Cafe is where we invite people living at home. You could be a caregiver of maybe you're an adult child caring for a mother or father who has Alzheimer's or dementia of some kind. You are invited to enter into community at this Memory Care Cafe. So we have a formal facilitated social work program where Del Oro comes in and gives education and resources. We also have opportunities for people to just share their experiences because sometimes it can be very isolating as a caregiver, whether you're a spouse who has a loved one who is struggling.
It's a 24/7 job.
It's a 24/7 job. Eskaton also offers respite services where we partner with Del Oro, and we also offer respite on a private pay where caregivers are like, okay, I need a week away.
Yeah.
So we offer short-term support as well.
What an opportunity for somebody who is hearing this and thinking, I had nowhere to go. And in essence, they actually do, through a variety of different resources that allow you to provide that service.
That's right.
As we look at the overall provision, knowing that there's a tsunami coming
Yes.
of seniors, and we've had many homeless organizations that address the situation in the community telling us that the number one growth demographic for homelessness right now is seniors.
Yes.
Because they're being priced out of their facilities or their housing, whatever it may be. If somebody comes through and says, Sheri, this check is blank. You give me a good explanation, I'm going to give it to you. What would that look like? What would you do with the organization if money wasn't an object?
That is the most excellent question because I have a plan.
Good. And we want that. We want
I have
people
a plan.
to hear this.
If you're going to give me a blank check, I have a plan. So, for example, through data, we know at our 13 affordable senior housing communities, which, by the way, several of them have designations for providing previously unhomed individuals an opportunity for housing. So we have a designation at some of our communities. I would expand that program exponentially. We have 1,700 people on the waiting list for our affordable communities. I would expand and replicate that model because if you have, I see housing as healthcare. If you don't have housing, if you don't have stability, you don't have a sense of community where you can thrive and know that you're cared for. That's where kind of the unraveling of society happens. So for us, it's really around two-pronged. One is housing. We would expand those opportunities. We would also expand the services that we are able to deploy from our hub campuses out into the homes. 9 out of 10 people will always want to live at home. It's just how it is.
I can appreciate that.
And until people really find that they may have a need, that they recognize I'm now alone and I have to make all my own meals and I'm not really eating very well anyway. And so they recognize, oh gosh, I want to be with somebody. So that funding would allow us to not only deploy more services out into the homes, but also engage people into the campus community setting.
Hearing that you've got 1,700 people on a waiting list, it astounds me, number one, because that's the waiting list you have.
Yes.
How many others that provide some semblance of senior housing have that same waiting list of 800, 1,000, 2,000, whatever that number is, and they're unable to provide because we don't have the facilities.
That's right.
And we may even have them in a hotel that could be converted, or a property that is multi-unit that really is in disrepair, where somebody like you could come in and completely convert it to a proper facility in terms of what it's capable of doing.
Yes.
Now we're back to reality. You don't have a blank check anymore.
You gave it to me for a few seconds and I was excited. Yes.
What does it look like? What is the greatest need? What are you faced with as the biggest challenge right now that you're addressing?
For Eskaton?
Yes.
So Eskaton, because we've been around for decades, I'd say our greatest challenge currently is the ability to adapt quickly to new needs and interests of the market. For example, we have many communities that are 20, 30, 35, 40, 50 years old. And so infusing capital back into those communities to ensure that they're meeting the needs, the interests, the desires of this emerging boomer population, for example, is critical.
Cases, they're more active than anybody would have ever thought in their 80s,
That's
90s.
Right. That's right. And we have a centenarian celebration every September that highlights we are living longer. And it's just within Eskaton, we have 59 centenarians.
That is amazing to me. I was speaking with one of your coworkers, and he was sharing with me that there's over 50 people 100 years old in your facilities. When you get them together, I just have to ask.
Yeah.
Have you,
it is
I'm
a
sure
party.
I'm sure you've gotten them together already.
Yes.
How are they?
It is amazing. The stories the articulation of their journeys is astounding. We actually are just about to launch a documentary that we've been involved in where we had someone come and drive around with our centenarians and interview them. And their stories, literally are truly, back to the silent movies and which silent movies they saw first and how they navigated the wars and how they, were the Rosie Riveters of those times and how they navigated loved ones, outliving so many loved ones. And so the energy I receive from these centenarians is A, stay engaged, learn continuously, always incorporate those fun times into your life and have a lightheartedness about life. Because when you're around centenarians, talk about adaptability.
Well, and living in the moment.
Living in the moment.
Every day counts at that stage of the game because that's it.
It's it.
That day could end that day.
Yes. And I think it's also just recognizing that all of us have that opportunity to live in the moment. And I think that's important as we age and we talk about aging. A lot of times people don't want to talk about aging.
Right.
And so I believe it's truly important for each of us to take that opportunity to live in the moment, to ensure that we're doing the best for ourselves and others and creating that community.
What a gift for you and your employees to have the ability to access those people. Not many of us get to talk to somebody who's 100 years old or to just feel the vibe off of somebody who's 100 years old and some of the life experiences that they had that they could tell us about or how they did, like you said, navigated the wars and the pandemics, and the economic up and downs over the course of so much time, and their perspectives on presidents. They've got to have such opinions. I can only imagine the fun that it would be just sitting with somebody, especially if it was a couple of them in different positions, let's say, with different opinions on different things, depending on how they were raised or whatever.
Absolutely.
How neat is that?
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the reasons why Eskaton, our actual name, means dawning of a new day. And so to me, the centenarians really espouse that is every day is a new dawn. And so they're taking advantage of it. It's not
Yeah.
like, oh, darn about that. It's,
Right.
oh, what's on the docket today?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure
So-
meal prep is a big thing too.
Yes.
They don't have to deal with any of it. They can just, what's on the menu today? I'm not
Exactly.
cooking. Somebody's going
Right.
to have something for me to do.
It is true. And honestly, I think the other piece to that is just keeping active, learning new things. I was just talking about this one centenarian I was with several weeks ago, and she was just saying, I just learned a new card game last week. And she also knits special socks. I mean, they're amazing socks. I'm like, I need a pair of that for all of her great grandchildren now.
Wow.
I was like, is this great or great grandchildren?
Yes.
So very purposeful living.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it too. You have to have a reason to get up.
You do.
And back to the beginning of the conversation, in community, you do. You know, where's Bill? I want to go check up on Bill. I want to see how Bill, I want to talk to my, whatever that may be, or Karen, or whatever they think about to that other person, because they are so significant to each other at that age. And of course, at the younger ages, it's just being engaged back to the people that surround you in that community.
I think one of the things that I've learned over time is that a culture is created by the people living in community.
Great word. It's
and
culture.
then it also is important that what we've learned is that incorporating the intergenerational component is critical as well. So we bring in kids, and we have programs and all kinds of learning engagement opportunities to just continue to grow and connect.
If somebody's interested in finding out more about the organization, what's the best way to learn what Eskaton is all about, whether it's going to be right for my parents or another loved one, neighbor, whatever the situation may be?
I would say the best way to connect with us is through our website, eskaton.org, eskaton.org.
And we will put that in the show notes as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And also, we have a 1-800 number, so you can call us and we will have someone available to navigate you to the right support or information. We are a true resource to the community.
Well, in so many ways that I wasn't aware. You know, the affordable housing is such a big deal. The services, the phone service, above and beyond. And again, the value of a nonprofit. It's not that you have to pump out an investment return to somebody. You're reinvesting it not only in the organization and the facilities, but into the community, which is such a much more appreciated way to do it.
I think that is one of the reasons why I personally was drawn to the organization. And I've worked in a variety of settings, but that one key point just aligned perfectly with my personal mission and values. And so to me, I would want my older parents to be supported in an organization such as Eskaton.
Anything else you'd like to leave our audience with?
I think one of the things I would encourage the audience to do is really begin educating yourself. Many times we, as adult children or grandkids, wait until something happens. And we don't enter into those conversations with our older loved ones to say, hey, what are your desires to age well? And it could be, gosh, I want to stay at home, but if I need something, I would appreciate ABC. Or let's look around and start touring places that to become familiar. Because when something happens, whether it's a fall or a critical situation, then everyone feels constrained. And then it becomes an emergency and not a proactive decision.
So true. So many times I can't.
Yes.
I don't have to remind you.
So plan ahead.
We always hear it. She fell, broke her hip, and passed away 6 months later.
Yes. It's all about proactive planning and prevention. And you can have a wonderful aging experience.
In a great community.
That's right. We do love our communities and we love our people, but that's one thing I would just strongly suggest, don't wait.
Well, Sheri, your stories here and the explanation of what the opportunities are within the organization, I think really helped clarify a lot that people maybe just didn't know, because we do see the facilities on corners.
Oh, yes. And they're popping up a lot because they see the demographic wave.
That's right. They're big facilities.
Right.
And we know the care because everybody has a parent. Where you are in that lifestyle for your parents is changing, but knowing that that tsunami is coming, knowing that that wave of the 80 plus now seniors needing to have something to go to be cared for in some way, shape, or form is not going to get any smaller for the next 20 plus years is something we all need to be very significantly aware of. Thank you for what you do. Thanks for what you do in the community. We talked about that 1,700 employees, multiple facilities, and care for our elders who are in difficult situations with the unhoused is just so, you got your plate full. And
it's a full plate, but I wouldn't choose another plate.
Well, we're happy that there's somebody there to take care of it for us. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me today. It was a pleasure.
Pleasure was mine. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Nonprofit Podcast Network. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If what you heard moved you, please reach out to that organization and do what you can to help. If you like and appreciate what we're doing to support local nonprofits, please give us a positive review, subscribe, and share. If you're a nonprofit with an interest in participating in an episode, you can reach me at jeff@hearmenowstudio.com. If you have a need for the services or products our sponsors offer, please reach out to them. CapTrust, fiduciary advice for endowments and foundations, Runyon Saltzman Incorporated, RSE, marketing, advertising, and public relations, creating integrated communications committed to improving lives, and Western Health Advantage, a full-service healthcare plan for individuals, employer groups, and families. The Nonprofit Podcast Network is a production of, is recorded at, and edited by Hear Me Now Studio.